Hello, my name is Deborah Heyer of the National Cave and Karst Research Institute and the National Speleological Society. And today I'm going to show you how to make your own groundwater model. So this week has been Earth Science Week, but it's Earth Science every day. So we're going to go and figure out a way for you to make this model at home. So models are a great tool to help us better understand things that are difficult to see. So as I said, today we're going to talk about groundwater models, but when we look at maps, when we talk about atoms, these are all different types of models that help us have better understanding of things that we can't see the whole picture of. So maybe you have a model plane, maybe you have a replica of a car. All these are models and they have limitations. So even though this is a groundwater model, it's going to have some limitations. So it's not going to be exactly perfect. Just like a model car isn't the same size of an actual car and doesn't run the same way, our model isn't going to be perfect either. So things that you'll need some sort of container. I just chose a tall glass because I wanted to look at different types of stratigraphy. And I also want to make a cave. So caves are voids in the earth. So I use modeling clay to help make my cave. Even though caves aren't made of modeling clay, a lot of times they're made out in a rock type called limestone. They can be made in basalt. They can form in basalt. But for today, this is how I'm going to make my voids. You can use other types of substrates. So we have some large rocks, some smaller rocks, some different types of sand, some much smaller types of kind of clays here. And that's how I'm going to make my model. You can use whatever you want. You have your own questions, things you're curious about. You do that to go figure out how you want that to work. So I love caves, as I said, so I'm going to make sure I have a cave in my model. So what I'm curious about today is I want to see if I have at the bottom some really fine, small in diameter material substrate. I'm going to use, let's do some tiny bigger rocks. So remember, these are models, so whatever isn't exactly perfect to how everything looks. I'm going to use one of these rocks. Use some of these. And so one of the things you want to do pretty early on, so in our model, I want to see how wells work. So that's what these straws are for, because that's basically what a well is. So it is a long pipe that goes down into the earth. I'm using a metal straw just because it's easier, but you can use a plastic clear one, you can use tubing. If you use a clear straw, they're really nice because you can actually see the water as it's coming up. So that's kind of nice. So I'm just going to put these straws in different layers just so I can see what's going on here. I'm going to use this metal one to go to the very bottom. So all the water that comes into our ground model could come up. And then I'm going to keep on adding layers. Just like here, we have different rock layers. I feel like right here is a good place to put my void. So as I said, I'm going to make a cave. So this is going to take a little minute. As I said, I'm using just normal clay, molding clay. And all I'm using that is to just kind of create a void. You do want to make sure there is a hole so water can get through, like just how real caves are. There's cracks in between. They go in through the different layers. I'm going to create my void. Thinking right here looks like a good place to make a void. Let's do that. I'm just gonna kind of stick it to the wall a little. I have a little bit of a hole that comes up here, but I don't want too much. So that's kind of going to be my cave. I'm going to also make a sinkhole. So one of the things I'm going to do is have a little bit of it come up later. I'm just kind of molding that clay for later and making a pit, because I like pits. Who doesn't like going down on rope in a pit? Okay, maybe a lot of people, but I like it. So I'm going to add some more rocks. Ooh, maybe some big ones? But it still have that nice, beautiful cave right there, that beautiful void. I'm going to have some more sand. And around here, so as I said, I want to kind of make like a little sinkhole. Make it really easy for that water to come down. So I'm going to poke another hole with a straw. Let's see, here's my other straw. So now I've made my different layers. I have different types of minerals, different types of sediments and substrates. I have my clay to make my voids. These voids are really small. In my other model, I was more curious on bigger voids. And so we'll look now and see how the water flows through it. So I have, of course, some plain water. We're going to test it out. See how it goes. So you can see that the water slowly trickles down. Look at it in our space. See how it fills up? And some places it flows better than others. And this is a great way to kind of see. You can kind of, if you have a question like, what happens if I pour the water over here? Well, how's that? Are you going to see erosion? Are you going to see substrate move? And it kind of gives you this idea of how water can percolate through different types of rocks, different types of substrates, different types of geologic layers. And so you go home, go find materials that are at your house. We can use this one now. See how how the water goes through different layers. And also you can play with what happens if it isn't water that goes through? What happens if it's something else? And how would that affect your system? How long will that take through? And so you can go home, ask your questions, see how things will flow a little differently. And since you have these wells that you've created, the best thing is, if you want to go further, not only do you want to see the water, you can go ahead, you can make your own rain. See, well, in this system, the water didn't really carry a lot of our pollutants in, our red dye. And what happens after it rains? Where does it go? Where does it go all the way down? Will we see it in more than one place than another? So we can see it over here. That's the great thing about models, is it helps us figure out how systems work. And as I said, we are kind of modeling wells here, our drinking wells. So if you want to go further, you can get a little hand pump vacuum. They're about 20 bucks online, $23 online. They're great. You can have a little nozzle, a little capillary piece. And once you create a vacuum, so as I said, wells, they're basically long pipes, straws, but you just need to lower the pressure for water to come out. So let's see. So if we look at this pipe right here, it's in that water. Oh, this one's really, we can kind of see. Let's see what happens when we try to suck up that water. So the more we pump, the more water goes through the hose. And over time, you can see the water level change. So this happens to our aquifers. So karst is a soluble rock that forms voids. That's why caves form in karst. And that's why we have a lot of karst aquifers, these voids filled with water, and that's where we get a lot of our drinking water. And as I do more, we have less and less water in our caves. We have less and less water in our aquifers, just like more water is pulled out. And so you can only, like, the nice thing is aquifers can recharge with rains. It does take a while, as you can see, to recharge.